In addition to the more than 40 famous World War II Japanese shipwrecks that lie at the bottom of Truk Lagoon today, there are also scores of largely intact Japanese airplane wrecks, a legacy of the same two-day American Task Force 58 fast carrier strike of 17th and 18th February 1944, codenamed Operation Hailstone, that sent the more famous ships to the bottom. In this short video, I'm going to have a look at the wreck of a fast, long-range reconnaissance Nakajima C6N Scion, Allied reporting codename MYRT. The Allies allocated simple reporting codenames to all the main types of Japanese aircraft, such as the G4M bomber, which was codenamed Betty, the Kawanishi flying boat, codenamed Emily, the Jake seaplane, the Judy dive bomber, the Jill torpedo bomber, the Val dive bomber, and so on. The MYRT was the fastest Japanese long-range carrier-based reconnaissance plane of the Second World War, and its introduction in 1944 came about when the Japanese realised that their standard carrier-based torpedo bomber, with a top speed of only 290 miles per hour and a range of 1,000 nautical miles, made poor reconnaissance aircraft. Powered by an 18-cylinder air-cooled radial piston engine, the MYRT's three-blade propeller could drive it to 380 to 400 miles per hour and gave it a ferry range of 2,900 nautical miles with auxiliary fuel. The service ceiling was 34,350 feet. The MYRT had a crew of 3 who sat in tandem in a long glazed single canopy. To save weight, the reconnaissance variant was lightly armed with only a single 7.92 rear-firing defensive machine gun that could keep an enemy plane at bay as her great speed was used to get away. In 1945, another MYRT variant was rebuilt as a 2-seat night fighter that was more heavily armed. But whilst the great speed of the MYRT could evade the 380-mile-an-hour F-6F Hellcat fighter, when the American Vought Corsair fighter was introduced, it had a top speed of 446 miles per hour. This MYRT sits upright in shallow water of about 20 metres just to the south of Weno Island, not far from the Blue Lagoon Dive Resort and not far from the Jake seaplane, covered in another video in this playlist. So this dive starts at the tail fin of this MYRT. I'm just getting myself sorted out after the descent. Off to starboard you'll see what looks like an aerial torpedo, which is not from this plane but from some other incident, and it's just ended up lying in the seabed here. At the aft end of the canopy you can see the circular port that housed the rearward firing machine gun. That was the only weapon that the MYRT carried. And you can see how long this glazed canopy is, holding 3 crew. The diver here peering into the pilot's seat, he's actually a commercial airline pilot who is fascinated to come to Truk Lagoon and be able to see intact or relatively intact World War II Japanese planes. The engine and the prop is missing from this wreck. It's actually sheared off somehow from its mounting flanges. I don't know quite where the engine is, just from this one dive. But that's perhaps an indication that it hit the water at some speed when it landed. So I'm just doing a bit of a turn round now after that pass. So you can see there how the engine and the nose cone is missing. The black coral is actually on the antenna strut that held the aerial for radio transmissions and receiving that ran to the tail fin. You can see, like all aircraft wrecks on Truk Lagoon, that coral doesn't really like the taste of aluminium and doesn't actually attach to aluminium in any great way, so the fuselage and wings are quite clear, but where there's a ferrous piece of machinery, coral will, like that radio antenna strut, the coral will attach to that. So that's just looking into the pilot's area. So that's a brief tour of the MYRT, fastest Japanese naval aircraft of World War II. If you want to read any more information about any of the Japanese shipwrecks of Truk Lagoon or any of the aircraft wrecks, check out the new edition of my book, Truk Lagoon, the Japanese World War II Shipwrecks,